Buenos días, hermanos y hermanas. Esta los CyberDudes podcast. And if you don't speak Spanish, don't worry, because I will not be conducting this in the remainder of this in Spanish. He's capable, Omar Zangarima, who's with me, Robin Thornton, is capable, but I am not, because my Spanish does not stretch that far.
I believe in you, Robin. I think we could make something happen. I think we could.
All right, we'll give it a go now, and then we'll see how far we can.
No, let's not.
No,
let's not.
exactly.
Well,
There we go.
let's
That's my
prepare.
point.
Let's prepare. That's a little. Welcome. Thank you. Thank you for that warm welcome, my native tongue.
I figured you'd appreciate that. Although I did try, and I felt like that was slightly more of a this side of the Atlantic kind of Spanish, as opposed to what you call the aristocratic bullshit that I speak.
Well, yeah, but it felt closer to home for me. So thank you.
Yes. Oh, right. How was it? It's the first episode after Christmas. How was Christmas?
It was great. It was first Christmas with the kiddo. So it was magical, and it apparently took its nod from Hanukkah because it seemed like it extended 4 days. Every new family unit that we took her to had another explosion of gifts. I'm not buying anything for her birthday. I'm letting her know now. She can listen back to this when she's older. We have all the gifts that we can possibly have. Oh, good grief. So, yeah, it was nice. How about yours?
Weird, because it was just the two of us plus the dogs, and actually, so we decided to go to a spa in Jersey.
Was it Korean one?
It's the Korean one that looks out over the Hudson.
Yeah, and it had like 17 different rooms, and you could do like different
across many different floors, and it was absolutely rammed. We thought we were being novel going on Christmas Day, but apparently everybody else had the same idea.
I love that place, but not so much when you're hanging brain in front of 40 other people when you're changing, right? Like that's not cool. So
what a euphemism. Right. Well, enough of that. I mean, okay, so let's say as far as Christmases go, it seems to have been a relatively quiet one cyber-wise, which is good, because actually what normally happens is when all the admins and everybody else is out, that's when crime decides to strike. But apparently even the cyber criminals have been enjoying their little end of December break. But we do still have news. We still have stories. First of which is from the Hacker News. 15,000 and more 4-faith routers exposed to new exploit due to default credentials. So here's our standard figure wagging. Stop using default credentials. Especially and this is it. I don't necessarily mind default credentials when they're the way that like Verizon or AT&T do it with their branded routers, where it's like every single one has its own unique thing and it's printed on the back, and nobody can ever remember it because it's like 30 characters long. It's fine.
Yeah.
Admin or whatever it may be, that's just the same across all of them. Just dumb. Stop doing this, please, for the love of God. Next from go on.
No, it's 2024. This is madness.
Nearly 2020. Some people will be listening to this in 2025.
That's true.
It makes it even more inexcusable.
Verse.
Next one we have from Reuters. Hackers hijack a wide range of companies' Chrome extensions, experts say. This is news that hackers have compromised several different browser extensions in a series of intrusions that date back to mid-December. So Cybercrime Santa has actually been delivering some presents, apparently. Warning here, just be mindful of what Chrome extensions you are installing, because all the stuff that goes through your browsers can potentially be picked up by one of those extensions, and they're not necessarily the most trustworthy things. No. I think that goes a little bit to Google's somewhat easy breezy attitude around governance on the Google Play Store.
or lack thereof. My takeaway here was everyone's gettable, because the one company highlighted in the story was a data loss prevention company, which has to be horrifically egg on the face levels of whoops. But this is another, often, I think, in my opinion, overlooked angle of supply chain attack. You could get inside it here, and then it's off to the races. So.
Yeah, pivot. And then final on the short stuff, Biden administration proposes new cybersecurity rules to limit the impact of healthcare data leaks. This is from West Hawaii Today, which is, I feel like it's one of those like the Jerusalem Post, where it's a seldom referenced news.
It's on your bingo card. Congrats that we were going to reference a West Hawaii Today.
That's it. Not even just Hawaii, specifically West Hawaii, which would be like what?
East Japan? I don't know.
That's like,
what's the difference?
No, but I'm thinking because that's like, oh no, I guess that kind of covers Oahu, and I mean, it's definitely Kauai, but it also covers Oahu. It's less so. This is more like, oh, volcano people over in Big Island. Don't you bother about this.
I'd like to apologize in advance for the phrase volcano people. We're absolutely getting canceled. Come on now. In an age where there's two Moana movies, you can't say that shit.
We are not getting canceled by like the 50,000 people who live in Kona and Hilo. Like, get out. No way.
They do jujitsu very well. They're tough. You watch out. Oh god.
Anywho, yes. So new rules seeking to limit healthcare breaches, which would be a bloody good thing, considering the Change Healthcare hack that happened back in February. We'll be talking more about that shortly. But Omar, first, your spotlight little feature, and this is not based on any article, is it, this week?
No.
You're going rogue already in your new responsibilities as a pre-production.
Gone mad with power, as I am wont to do.
Have you ever tried going mad without power? It's boring. No one listens to you.
It's really ineffectual, right? You're just farting in the wind at that point. But as we all know, anybody in this field or IT or something technical of any sort, you go to family gatherings or maybe there were some Koreans at the spa asking you for some tips while completely nude from the waist down. There's a sense of, well, you do IT, so here you go. I have XYZ problem. And what I'm seeing is, there's general motifs. And I wanted to ask, and I'll kick it over to you, which you see in your experience. But for me, it was really, and it's a little bit of skewing towards the older demographics in those gatherings, but it's the inability to discern real sources from fake ones. We've talked about this at length in other shows and in other contexts. But my cyber tip would be now, right? What's the old saying? Believe half of what you hear. Only believe in what you see, right? Or believe none of what you hear and half of what you see. I think you have to do none at first, and just take everything really with a grain of salt, which is a nice tie into maybe your story after this.
A grain of Salt Typhoon.
A grain of Salt Typhoon mixed in, right? Little Salt Bay action. Cyber Santa Salt Bay. Now that's just going to stick with me. But there's active campaigns to do this. It's part of now international diplomacy. It's just the rules of the game.
Or lack of diplomacy.
Or lack of diplomacy. Diplomacy / non-decorum, however you want to play it. It's just the game has changed. Those are the rules. And if something, again, triggers you in any way, if it hooks in, it's probably meant to. As even legitimate journalism is sinking into clickbaity nonsense, as it has to, just to adapt
has already sunk. I don't know. I've probably said this at some point before. I knew that, or I felt like we'd got into a new sort of sad reality when the BBC started going clickbaity in order to compete with the likes of the Daily Mail.
That's tough.
Right. And that was like, this is
yeah.
just now a race to the bottom as far as journalism is concerned.
And that's awful because that's one of the stalwarts. Right. All my West Wing devotees out there, right? It's not Le Monde, right? That's a terrible joke. But BBC, right? It's one of those things that you want to kind of set your clock to. This won't steer me wrong. It'll at least try at some impartiality. And maybe the stories, I'm not saying aren't that way, but at least the clickbait stuff that tries to enrapture you, it seems like it's going more towards the New York Post than the New York Post is going towards the BBC. I'll say that. As you said, it's the race to the bottom. But my overall tip is really be mindful of things that are just floating out there and going, ooh, wait, because honestly, even the act of clicking on some of this nonsense can set off a chain of events.
And I think so. I mean, when you first opened on with this one, it reminded me quite sort of coincidentally. I saw a clip from do you know the angry Asian guy from the Daily Show? I can't remember his name. He's like
Ronnie Chang
or something like Ronnie Chang. That's the one. Yes. So he's got a new Netflix special where like he's talking about how his mum just believes stuff, and he finishes up one of the lines that he finishes up with that like on that particular bit is because everything's kind of moved past the boomers now, like, technologically wise, and he just goes, "This world is not for you. Stop making decisions." And everybody in the comment section just latched on it, going, "That is the best thing I've heard all year."
It's true, and this is me fully saying that there'll be a time when that hits me, and I'm in this field. But there's even certain things that I'm just like, nah, it's not. What's my old joke, right? I don't fucks with the Snapchat. I just refuse to.
Yeah,
it's not gonna.
You know, I'll freely admit, I hit that age maybe 8 or 9 years ago where I started going, I just can't. I have neither the time, energy, nor inclination to keep up with every single little bit of new tech that is coming out. So obviously, in my limited ability to be proficient on Instagram, for example, I'm repeatedly finding out all the little weird tricks that isn't written down in any manual or shown anywhere, that you just kind of have to find out for yourself, and can easily do so if you're a 15-year-old who is constantly fucking around on your phone.
100%. Absolutely.
Now this has turned into we are getting old and crusty, and probably will start voting with right-wing sensibilities in a couple of years, sort of discussion. No, it's not. That's not the case. We endeavour to be sensible. Sensibly.
So what's yours? What would you say?
My spot. So my, as in,
what would be that cyber tip? Yeah.
Don't have just more than one. Start that again. Cut that out on the editing floor. Maintain more than just the one email address for your things, because that becomes, and I'm pretty sure this is probably something that I've said before as well, that becomes a nexus point for all bullshit, all efforts to compromise your identity or your accounts. So splitting those up spreads that risk, especially if you're keeping the most sensitive stuff on email addresses, or an email address or multiple that are less often given out and are less likely to be involved in data breaches.
Brilliant.
I support a useless football team.
Hey, listen.
I have it on right here, and honestly,
don't get me started. We had a shot at the beginning of the year for
we've just been in front of an open net and didn't score.
Hey, listen.
Oh well. Moving on. Are we ready to move on that one?
Yeah, I think we're good. What's your spotlight there, good sir?
My spotlight, I said we'll get to this earlier on. Article from Wired, the worst hacks of 2024. So in lieu of not doing a full episode on
retro,
the look back, the review, a 2024 wipe, if you will. I figured that I'd bring this up simply as a matter of let's just have a quick scan through a few of the big ones, and that will give people some semblance of understanding as to how high the stakes have been this year. Before I get into it, what did you make of this? Because I know you'll have a quick skim of it. Which one really stood out for you?
Snowflake, by far. I know we're in the industry and change, but I think we've beaten that one to death. I just think with the theme of supply chain attacks, hack once, compromise many. I think it's one of those things that we're going to see much more further on. It's also a case of it's a supplier to another set of suppliers. And what I mean by that is I think we've seen a couple of things where Microsoft is pointing towards Snowflake as the point of entry or the threat vector that was compromised. And that's even more terrifying. What's mentally going through my mind now is that meme of all the blocks and what supports the global data infrastructure, and you have that tiny little Jenga piece. Yeah. And it's more and more as we're seeing it, consolidation. There's money in this game, so different sharks of different sizes are coming in and going, even outside of information security, are coming in and snapping things up like Recorded Future or CompTIA, etc. The consolidation, as happens in many mature industries, I think then even concentrates and compounds this problem, where if you get one of those critical suppliers that's a supplier to a supplier, and as is the case with Snowflake, you can go off to the races. You can spend, even if it's costly, you can spend a month, 2 months, 3 months trying to crack that walnut and know that it'll be ridiculously financially lucrative if you're able to get into just the one. You again, hack once, compromise many.
And I think this is so another version of that, and it's something that's been doing the rounds in the industry for probably a little while now. I expect it's less familiar of phrase for the general populace, but hackers don't hack in anymore, they log in. Right, that's one of the things that flies around. The identity solutions providers are all pitching that one these days. It's kind of like the it's like the new zero trust. Although thankfully,
if you say that 3 times in a mirror with the lights off, what appears? Oh God, yeah.
Michael Keaton banging on about zero trust.
I know, complete. Hey man, get paid, Batman, get paid. But where the hell did you show up? I don't know. Yeah, Robert Downey Jr. about information insurance.
Is he going to start playing Beetlejuice now?
No, he just did the. Didn't he? I think he was. It was in an ad or something. I remember during the Super Bowl or some sporting event. I remember last year. It was like RDJ, go play Dr. Doom, right? Like go get the Marvel checks. I get it.
I do find it funny now how these days how all the superheroes have also now got like a villain credit under their belt as well, because like by
show range
Batman, but then was also like a Spider-Man villain. I can't remember what his name was.
The Vulture.
Vulture, that was the one. And then you got RDJ is now going to be 2 different ones, and that's all that I can think of on that list.
All because Kang couldn't keep his hands to himself. That's really.
I'm sort of wondering whether obviously his general behavior was totally unacceptable and should not be condoned in any way, shape or form, but whether that might have been a bit of a let off for Marvel Studios in terms of, because I don't think people were really like buying into that whole storyline all that much.
Oh, they turned on him immediately, and as you said, I feel like
it was an excuse to do rewrites.
I really think he wasn't moving the needle, Although I don't know of any needle he can move to save his job in that situation.
No.
We've seen the video, we've seen whatever, but yeah, non-shout out, anti-shout out to King the Conqueror.
Yes, indeed.
Major.
Okay, back to cyber things though. So yeah, there was they don't hack in, they log in these days. But then also I think there's an interesting point here with regards to the suppliers, the many to many piece, and but then when you're talking about it from a company or even an individual perspective, if you really want to take it this far, the notion of resilience, like not putting all of your eggs in one basket, spreading your risk across. And I know we know multiple solutions providers who do this when everything's on the cloud. They will have some stuff that's in Microsoft, they'll have some stuff that's in Google, they'll have some stuff that's Amazon as well. But all that really, I mean, yes, that spreads risk in terms of, oh, well, what if there's an outage and something goes down? Oh, well, we'll just flip over to this. But it also does, it actually increases another form of risk, which is to say supply chain risk, and how many other ways are there to get into my system through somebody else's. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. It feels like, and I don't want to get too deep into this and too conceptual, because this is the kind of thing that is not necessarily useful to the average person, the average listener here. But these are the kind of challenges that big business, even small and medium business, will encounter and not always necessarily know that that's what they're encountering.
And I think, again, it's hard for me to see, prognosticate, or understand where the turning point can lie for when third-party risk is going to matter enough. Because we've had some whoppers. CrowdStrike being not the cyber incident, but I think, to your point, an incident where resilience is a big question mark. And the concentration in the industry is only going to exacerbate this type of thing. There's going to be probably fewer players that are catering for the big ticket things, almost as a symptom or a follow-on effect of, you can't get fired for buying IBM. Substitute Azure, substitute AWS, substitute up until this point Snowflake, and thereafter. This is not something that's, Snowflake's bouncing back. We've seen, in any risk or any pricing models, they've gathered, a little bit of that money back. Same with CrowdStrike, right? It hurt for a quarter, but it's not like they're going to be knocked around too badly. But I don't know what that inflection point has to be in order for third-party risk to mature or be taken as seriously as some other aspects of cyber risk is right now.
I'm kind of wondering whether at any point it ever will, because with that issue, at least not on a widespread basis, because that kind of issue, it's all just too easy just to blame somebody else.
Sure. And contracts can handle and shift that liability. Yeah, I see.
I think the only real thing that will, and it goes to a topic that is near and dear to you, I think the only real thing that can meaningfully prevent that kind of consolidation and that concentration of risk in that regard is proper antitrust measures. But that's difficult without people jumping on to the, oh, you are being nanny state or stifling innovation or this, that, or the other kind of line. It's almost as if it's got to be one of those things that I feel like to be done well needs to be done in such a low key and boring fashion that nobody really wants to jump on it and say, oh no, you can't allow Google to buy Mandiant, for example, which did happen. But
I think you regulate like crazy, and then you hand the fines out to the rank and file, have it be a tax rebate to us regular folks, and I think you'll start to see a surge of, it's a little bread and circusy, and it's completely fallacious. Please, or you know what? fuck it. Come after me in the comments. Let's. I could do with a little flexing here and there, but something has to be done because even the regulatory angle, didn't they just hit Meta for something that happened 6 years ago? And it's what Zuckerberg has in his couch cushions. Essentially, it's not a deterring factor. And will it even end up being what they truly pay? Because now at least, okay, it was established as 253 mil or some such. And to us, holy shit. But to them,
Yeah.
if they even pay all that is one thing. But then what do they end up chiseling it down to 50 or 60 and call it even? I don't know.
Either way, look, let's take those fines and then very, very deliberately funnel it into reducing the price of eggs, because that seems to be what people care about.
I like it.
Although I did notice, I think that whole price of eggs thing, basically, there's a lot about where you shop. Stop and Shop are very expensive for them. Shop Right, the other way, much more reasonable. I think half of this price of eggs is too high thing is because people don't know how to shop effectively.
Or
just my take.
Wild take. Get some chickens.
Oh. If you want chicken rearing tips, ask us, because Omar is the man for that.
Absolutely.
How many do you have?
11.
Jesus.
Yeah.
A lot of chickens. How long do they give you eggs for? How many years?
Like 3 to 5.
Not bad.
And they live longer. We're not going to eat them. We're not going to whatever. We'll just phase them. Can't do it. My wife's grown attached to them.
Apparently, good bug control.
Yes, 100%. If you let them free range.
Yeah. Anyway, right. Finishing off this article, because we've gone on multiple tangents. So, worst hacks of 2024, which we've kept you waiting for this one. So Wired have China's Salt Typhoon telecom breaches. We've talked about that in recent weeks. That's been the big news of Q4. Lots of statecraft cyber screwing around going there in terms of needling into multiple telecoms giants in the US in order to get at senior figures within government and law enforcement. Snowflake customer breaches, as you mentioned here, big supply chain attack, get into one, subsequently get into many. Big issue with this, and this is a recurring theme, is Snowflake was allowed by a lack of two-factor authentication on accounts. Why is this a thing? We had stolen data stolen from they used that access at Snowflake to get into Ticketmaster. Oh, screw Ticketmaster, fuck them. But Ticketmaster, Santander, actually also fuck Santander as well, awful bank. And Neiman Marcus, also known affectionately in my household as Needless Markup.
They're going private too, I heard. So.
Oh, are they?
I think
didn't
so.
know that. Oh, actually no, I think I might have seen some of that. AT&T again also involved, big telco, and yeah, just not a good thing. Also allowed to happen by lack of multi-factor authentication. Change Healthcare ransomware attack, which impacted, the numbers came out a month or two ago, impacted more than 100 million people in the US. Change Healthcare, of course, owned by parent company United Health Group, who have been in the news for less than savory reasons recently.
It's one way to say it, yeah. Less than savory. Jesus.
Less than say. Well, some people do think it's very savory and very wholesome. I'm not quite sure that murder in the middle of the street can be considered that, but
it's not dead.
Yeah,
relax.
Some people do agree with the axe that was grinded there.
You can't be blowing people away in the middle of the street. We got to figure out a different way to sort that.
No, but you also can't be denying coverage to people just because profit.
Agree. Firmly agree. So at least, hear me out, Robin. Death matches. Give them a fighting chance.
What they
get them in
would
get them in the octagon.
It's turned into a Schwarzenegger film from the 80s.
The Running Man, baby.
What would have been probably more effective, or one of the ways that they could be paying out more claims that they rightfully should do is if they didn't pay a $22 million ransom to a bunch of teenagers running the Alpha V Black Cat group that is affiliated with the Russian government or Russian intelligence.
Could help out a little bit, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Russia's midnight blizzard hit Microsoft again. I think this was linked to, as you said before, Snowflake. So again, it's a lack of multi-factor authentication. It's also a bunch of what they term test accounts that Microsoft had spun up for various testing reasons and then subsequently not deactivated after they knew that they wouldn't need them anymore. Bad identity management.
Wash your ass. It's hygiene. That's it.
It's hygiene.
Don't be the stinky kid in class. Wash your butt. All right? When you're done with test accounts, flush them away.
Yep.
None of this is
difficult
in cyber when all of this stuff is from the 90s. Right? And Schneier told us about all of it. Like, come on.
And then the final big one on here, less of a hack, less of a breach, more of a, well, I mean, it's the most Florida man cybersecurity story that I could have thought of.
Where does this go?
Company goes and scrapes a absolute veritable shit ton of data, doesn't secure it properly, and then it all leaks. But then people are thinking, oh no, there's billions of people's of data flying around, and actually no, it's national public data. It was simply there's a good portion of these records were actually people who are already dead, so not really a big deal, but it made enough noise that it was the news. And thankfully this particular scummy data broker had to file for bankruptcy as a result, so I guess there is some semblance of karma.
My heart bleeds for that. However, not technically illegal, a lot of what they did, which is a grander systemic problem. Vote for Wyden in subsequent elections. Do it.
That's it. I mean, like, you know, is collecting data that people are knowingly or unknowingly proffering up actually a criminal thing? I mean, no, by the letter of the law currently, but is it a thing that should be illegal? It's like, it's the same sort of thing as when cops can go grabbing evidence out of the trash because it's been discarded. They don't need a warrant for it because the person who owns it, sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of forfeited ownership rights.
Sure.
So it's kind of like public domain sort of thing. But final thing on here, the honorable mention they have North Korean cryptocurrency theft, which has been a pretty consistent theme throughout the last 12 months, and actually probably even a bit further, really. Won't label a point on that. We've discussed it enough in terms of it's these guys' only real way of getting funds for their very much frowned upon nuclear weapons program.
Feed your people. Don't make nukes. How about that?
Yeah. Good mantra. Feels like something that you'd see in a Fallout game.
Make sandwiches, not nukes, or something. Yeah, I could see that as part of the Fallout store. I would totally put that on, just like spray paint it on the front of some power armor.
Maybe that's some merch we can do.
I like this. That and wash your ass. Cyber hygiene helps everyone. Like,
okay, can we actually? Maybe we should scroll through some transcripts and just like figure out where's the neat little short bits that we can put on a t-shirt or a cap.
I like it.
That'd be quite a good one. Wash your ass.
Cyber hygiene helps everyone. Like it. Come on.
I feel like that would really, really take off. There's one that I did also always think would be a really good one would be that the Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction, like, say what again, but instead of having that on it, just like have the picture of him looking really, really angry and kind of like a two-tone sort of vector image with what was it? It was basically comes out. It's a play. It would be a play on motherfucking authentication.
Oh, there you go.
The multi-factor
Yep,
authentication, motherfucking
sure.
authentication.
I like it.
Because, Samuel L. Jackson loves saying motherfucker.
He does. He's a
Anyway,
surgeon with it. Yeah.
on that, I'm so annoyed that he didn't actually get to use that in the Avengers, though. Right at the very end, they were allowed one F-bomb, and they did not. Or not the Avengers, it was Infinity War, wasn't it?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Waste of a good opportunity. Right, on that note, we will close off today, as again I think we've run longer than we expected to, but hey, that's the norm these days. We will see you again next week. What have we got on the plan? What are you mulling over for next week's episode?
Hoping to get somebody I admire in the industry locked in for a little tete-a-tete, right? Head to head. So
Lovely.
Hopefully we can lock him in, and more news and more rants, and hopefully more quips that we can easily
Put on
monetize.
t-shirts. Yes. And maybe first episode of the year, some cyber resolutions, things to do in 2025.
That's true. They're all gonna be. I'm telling you now. I'm gonna pick them from an article on the Wayback Machine from 1995, and I'm gonna see how relevant they absolutely still are. So
I think they'll be very relevant. And
100%.
I mean, so, which actually goes a little bit to what I was about to say, is nothing that we're going to say in cyber resolutions is going to be anything that we haven't said to you before.
Nope.
But people still keep getting this wrong, so we're going to keep saying
it. Hey, keeps us employed.
All right. On that note, thank you very much, Omar. We'll see you all again next week.
Adios.